All right, class. I know many of you have emailed me that you are stuck on challenge activity 2.14. That's okay. Like always, I'm going to make this video literally because many of you have told me that you guys have questions. So we're going to get through challenge activity 2.14 simple statistics together. Although I will tell you, there really is no such thing as simple statistics. It's all complicated. All right. Well, I appreciate those of you sticking with me. My voice, I don't know how much longer it's going to hold up, but I really hope to get through these activities so that way you can get a good grade and pass this class. So, let's talk 2.14. I believe most of you understand exactly how to follow along in this pseudocode document. So what I have done here is I went ahead and for the sake of time, written out the code. So for you doing this yourself, just follow along. Declare a variable input 1 as an integer. That's all I did right here. Integer input 1. So where everybody seems to be getting stumped on this application is that it's two parts. It's having you do something, hit submit, get it wrong, and then write more code. I think that's where everybody's getting confused, is that you don't realize you have to write more code. You're not changing your code, you're writing more code. So this code here, if we were to break it down, what we're saying is that we want the user to input 3 values. We're going to store those values into an integer. Then we're going to declare 2 more integers called iAverage, iProduct. So the I stands for integer. So we're going to say this is the average being stored in an integer. This is the product of those numbers being stored in an integer as well. Then what we're also going to do is have floats. So floats is where we're going to say, hey, you know what? Let's output what the value is, storing the average and product into an integer, and let's compare it to see what would happen if it would even be different if we stored it into a float. I don't mean to be a spoiler, but it is going to be different because we know that an integer only is ever going to output a whole number. So a float will give us those decimals. So that's all this application is trying to do, is make sure that we understand that. And I trust that you understand that because I just told you. But let me show you what I mean. So when you click check, if you were following along and you just did part 1, you just did part 1 of the pseudocode, you will have gotten this right. Your integer numbers would be the same. However, your float numbers are going to be wrong because you haven't wrote that code yet. So you're going to come over here on the pseudocode, scroll down to part 2. Now you are going to go in here and say try again, and I'm going to add this code down here. If you didn't declare floats already previously, then you make sure you do them on the second time. But now I paste in there the second code and I hit check, and then I got it right. So if we were to break this down, if you were to look at this, well, I can't scroll down now, but over here, we were taking the I average is saying that it's the average of all these numbers stored into your I average, which basically stands for integer average. We output to that screen, we get a whole number. All you're doing in part 2 is saying, hey, the average that I declared as a float, I'm going to do the same math. The only difference is now when I output it, I can see that when it was stored in integers, I had 11 and 100 for the product. So 11 for the average, 1,000, I mean, for the product. But in a float, I had a more precise average where I got those decimal points where I can say that the average was actually 11.666666. It's a lot of sixes. And then what I can say is for the product, even though there wasn't like a remainder, I can still see that it's output in a 0.0 because it's a float. So that problem is a little complicated, but hopefully that helps. Take your time, follow along in the pseudocode document so you can make sure you're outputting that to the screen exactly. If you have any questions, please let me know. Take care.